I'll do one thing. When we stop in the middle of a para, it is difficult to. So I'll go back to the beginning of the para quickly and I'll read it. All right. By knowing the eternal unity of these three powers of the eternal manifestation, God, nature, individuals. So God, same though is using another word, but transcendent, okay, then nature and the individual self, the three levels. The highest level is the transcendent. It is only God without any possibility of the universe, nor the individual. Only He exists. That's it, transcendent. Then He creates the universe, and you can see the divine in the universe also. And finally, the universe also creates the individual. So now He is saying, by knowing the eternal unity of these three powers of the eternal manifestation, God, nature, and individual self, and their intimate necessity to each other, we come to understand existence itself, and all that in the appearances of the world now puzzles our ignorance. All the problems that we have in the physical world get solved. The problems in the physical world, what are they? We don't understand from where I have come. Okay, I start with the individual. Who am I? What is my real nature? From where have I come? And why have I come into the universe? Okay, and from where have I come and where am I going? What is the purpose of my life? There is the problem of the individual. If he is a thinking type, he doesn't understand what is the reality of his own and what is the purpose of life. Then in the cosmos, also there is a problem. Who is creating this cosmos? Who has created? From where has it come? That's the other one. And then the final question is there a God at all? So some people come to the conclusion that there is no God at all. And some people say there must be a God, but I don't know who is and where is. I don't even know whether it is possible to get him. So all these are the problems which are there. We come to understand the existence and all the appearances of the world which now puzzles our ignorance. So these are the puzzles. The individual doesn't know at all anything about himself or from where he has come or what is the purpose of life. The cosmos also, who has created the cosmos, and someone who has created the cosmos must be very, very intelligent because there is so much of purpose and so much of order in the physical world. So how can it be mechanical? It can't be. There is someone who with an intelligence and a consciousness which has created. But who is his consciousness? I don't know. So these are the problems that bother you. So Surendra is saying, when you come to know at the supramental level all the three together, okay, then you understand everything. Everything becomes clear. Fortunately, he is there to tell us. So at least mentally, we have no problem. We understand the purpose of life and from where we have come, we know. Okay, but knowing mentally is not enough. That's the whole problem. So we go to the next sentence. Our self-knowledge abolishes none of these things. Okay? Our self-knowledge, knowing myself, it excludes knowing the universe and also knowing the supreme. Self-knowledge is your own individual knowledge of yourself. Abolishes none of these things. It abolishes only our ignorance and those circumstances proper to the ignorance which made us bound and subject to the egoistic determination of our nature. So what he's saying is that even when you come to know your own soul, many of the problems don't get solved. That's what he's saying. Even if you go to the supreme overmind level, there also the problem doesn't get solved. Okay? There seems to be a dichotomy. There seems to be a huge difference between spirit and matter. Only when you go to the supramental level, all the three become meaningful and linked. Okay? That's what he's saying. Otherwise, your egoism goes away, your ignorance goes away when you do yoga and you realize your own soul, which is a self-knowledge. It is not world knowledge, nor is it God knowledge. Self-knowledge excludes. Clearly, he's saying, that's why he's using the word self-knowledge. Self-knowledge, knowledge about yourself. You know the reality of yourself. But it excludes, it does not include necessarily. It can include, but does not necessarily include the world knowledge and the God knowledge. It does not. So you must know all the three. Our self-knowledge abolishes none of these things. It abolishes only our ignorance and those circumstances proper to the ignorance. It's a huge thing. It's not a small thing. But yet it does not solve all the problems. That's what he's saying. Circumstances proper to the ignorance, which made us bound and subject to the egoistic determinations of our nature. Note the word, interesting word, determination. That means the features. That means those things which have got clear features, nature, characteristics, egoistic characteristics. And what are the egoistic characteristics? Very clearly, a sense of separation. I am separate from everybody else. That's the main thing. And that separation, naturally you don't know the others, so there is ignorance. So these are the results of egoism. Okay? Ignorance and ego, they come in. Bound us, which made us bound and subject to the egoistic determination of our nature. When he is talking of nature, he is talking of the body, mind, life. Okay? When we get back to our true nature, true being, which is the self or the psychic being, the ego falls away from us. Its place is taken by our supreme and integral self, the true individuality. So he has used three words, okay? Supreme and integral self and the true individuality, and he has also used the true being. So these three words, he often uses the word central being. The central being is above and inside you also, indifferent. The psychic being is not necessarily the self. The self is universal, the psychic being is individual. Both are divine, but there are two different levels. So that's what he's saying. When we get back to our true being, and the true being includes the psychic being as well as the self. The self is that which is your own self, but which is also the self of everybody else. The ego falls away from us. Its place is taken by our supreme and integral self, the true individuality. And the true individuality has absolutely no trace of ego in it. Sometimes there can be a trace, but then that depends on individuals. At this supreme self, as this supreme self, it makes itself one with all beings, which is a cosmic consciousness. When you are in the supreme self, you have a cosmic consciousness and sees all world and nature in its own infinity. You see everything within yourself, in its own infinity. And your self is infinite, it has become infinite. What we mean by this is simply that our sense of separate existence disappears into a consciousness of illimitable, undivided, infinite being in which we no longer feel bound to the name and form and the particular mental and physical determination of our present birth and becoming, and are no longer separate from anything or anyone in the universe. This is a very interesting sentence. We'll look at it clearly. Okay. What we mean by this is simply that our sense of separate existence. I am separate from everybody else. I have a body which is mine and not anybody else's. I have a vital which is mine and not anybody else's. I have a mind which is different from others. This sense of separateness disappears into a consciousness of illimitable, undivided, infinite being in which we no longer feel bound by the name and form. Which is the name and form? Your body, your vital, and your name, and your mind, and the particular mental and physical determinations of our present birth. So each present birth, you have certain physical determinations. The next birth will have quite different determinations. You may be, this life you may be tall and fair, next life you may be short and dark, okay? And you may be, even the characteristics also change, psychological characteristics. This time you may be, a little ego bound, next time you may be very generous. These things also go on changing because you must experience the world in all its aspects. Otherwise you won't have the knowledge. So you must know what is generosity, and you must also know what is miserliness. So it's an experience, and then only when you have the experience of these things you understand. So Surendra is using present birth and becoming. Becoming is very clearly a body, mind, life. The soul, there is no becoming to the soul, it only grows, it's the same. And are no longer separate from anything or anyone in the universe. Even you can see your own presence even in stones, okay? Anything or anyone in the universe. Everything becomes part of it. This is what the ancient thinkers called the non-birth, because you are not depending on the birth which gives you your body, mind, life. So the non-birth means you are not identified anymore with your body, mind, life. That's what it means, the non-birth. You realize that you are not necessarily subject to birth in the physical world. If you want, you can disappear into the infinite without birth. Rebirth was in our ancient, for a long time, after the Mayavad theory and the Buddhistic theory, birth was a curse. You are coming into the physical world and suffering. Of course, Srivastava does not agree. He says it's an opportunity, it's not a curse. Suffering is not to be seen negatively, it has to be seen positively. It's an opportunity given to you for progress, and understanding of things, knowledge. This is what the ancient thinkers called the non-birth. He is referring to the Isha Upanishad, the non-birth, or the destruction of birth, or nirvana. Destruction of birth, you can call the destruction of birth nirvana also. At the same time, we continue to live and act through our individual birth and becoming, but with a different knowledge and quite another kind of experience. In the normal condition, we are identified with our body, mind, life, and we act with an ego and our own will. But when you have gone to the non-birth, you have gone to the self, and you realize all the three are one, transcendent, cosmic, and individual, then you are no longer in ignorance. You see that you are one small element in the vast universe. That's what you see. So your knowledge completely disappears. I come back to the very interesting little conversation, not conversation, exchange of letters between Srivastava and Niruddha. I've told you before, but it's very relevant here, because Niruddha wrote to Srivastava, you are an avatar and this and that, but we are very satisfied only with Srivastava as we know you. Okay. So Srivastava says, very good, I have no problem with that. But I myself don't know who is this Sri Aurobindo that you know. Because, why? Because he is not the body, mind, life anymore. He himself is the whole universe. He doesn't identify himself with the body, mind, life. He says, I don't know who I am. I don't know who you think I am. Okay? Because Niruddha is surely not understanding those cosmic consciousness. Okay, so this is what he means by losing the identification with body, mind, life. Then, at the same time, we continue to live and act through our individual birth and becoming, but with a different knowledge and quite another kind of experience. The another kind of experience is this: when you are in ignorance, you are outward oriented. The physical world is real, and you are using your senses. When you have realized your psychic being or yourself, you are inward oriented, and the physical world becomes unreal. What the senses were telling you about the universe, you find it to be unreal. And the inner is the reality. Okay? So totally different. Mother calls it renversement de conscience. That means a total reversal of consciousness. That which is going outwards starts going inwards. That which was real turns out to be unreal. That which was unreal to you, that which seemed to be your psychological emotions and all that seem to be abstract, they become concrete. That's what is meant by another. He is not using the word reversal, but Mother says that, and he himself also says that elsewhere. Now, to be able to live permanently in this new consciousness of our real, our integral being, is to attain liberation and enjoy immortality. You realize that your soul has always existed and will always exist, unless you want to dissolve it and disappear into the infinite. Okay, so this is what he is saying. To be able to live permanently, not have an experience, that's not enough. In this new consciousness of our real, our integral being, Now, when he is talking of integral being, he is including all the three. You are part of God, you are part of the universe, and also you have a psychic being which is divine essential. That's an integral being. It's not only your psychic being or only yourself. Okay? It's very clearly an integral being, all the three. So that completes the paragraph. Now we can go to the next paragraph. Okay? The chapter is the soul and liberation. So when you identify yourself not with your body, mind, life, but with your self or central being, you are liberated. You are out of the prison of body, mind, life. We read the next one. Here there comes in the complication. So what is the complication? Let us read. Okay. So
I'm reading, Rangaga.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Here there comes in the complication of the idea that immortality is only possible after death, in other words, upon higher planes of existence, or that liberation must destroy all possibility of mental or bodily living and annihilate the individual existence forever in an impersonal infinite. These ideas derive their strength from a certain justification in experience and a sort of necessity or upward attraction felt by the soul when it shakes off the compelling ties of mind and matter. It is felt that these ties are inseparable from all earthly living or from all mental existence. Death is the king of the material world, for life seems to exist here only by submission to death, by a constant dying. Immortality has to be conquered here with difficulty and seems to be in its nature a rejection of all death and therefore of all birth into the material world. The field of immortality must be in some immaterial plane, in some heavens where either the body does not exist, or else is different and only a form of the soul or a secondary circumstance. On the other hand, it is felt by those who would go beyond immortality even, that all planes and heavens are circumstances of the finite existence, and the infinite self is void of all these things. They are dominated by a necessity to disappear into the impersonal and infinite, and an inability to equate in any way the bliss of impersonal being with the soul's delight in its becoming. Philosophies have been invented which justify to the intellect this need of immersion and disappearance. But what is really important and decisive is the call of the beyond, the need of the soul, its delight. In this case, in a sort of impersonal existence or non existence. For what decides is the determining delight of the Purusha, the relation which it wills to establish with its Prakriti, the experience at which it arrives as the result of the line it has followed in the development of its individual self experience among all the various possibilities of its nature. Our intellectual justifications are only the account of that experience which we give to the reason and the devices by which we help the mind to assent to the direction in which the soul is moving.
So this whole para is sort of saying that it is very understandable why the ascetic is rejecting the physical world, because it is based in experience. When you go to the self, okay, above the mind, the difference is so fantastic that you find that, oh my God, the consciousness I am in is the real thing. So the other is all not worth at all. That's what he's saying. That it is very understandable why the ascetic rejects the physical world after. And he's saying that there are many philosophies have been invented which justify to the intellect this need of immersion and disappearance. We don't want to have anything to do with the grossness and the perversity and the ignorance and the darkness of the physical world. Why the hell should we do that when I have got the opposite of that? So that's what Swami is explaining here. Okay? And I can mention one thing. Even mother, she had a very interesting experience when Sri Aurobindo passed away on the 5th of December 1950. She says that it seemed, because, she was doing all the work in the ashram. and Sri Aurobindo was supporting her from behind. But she became conscious of the support when he was no longer there physically. Of course, he was there, and every day she used to have a talk with him in the subtle words. She is constantly in touch with him. And yet she says that when he went away, it was as though the whole universe had pulled down the base on which she was standing. She felt that. Okay. Now imagine mother who is divine and is here is feeling like that the support has gone away altogether. So you do feel, okay, that the physical world really is not worth it. So that's what Swami is explaining here. Of course, he does not agree. He says that no, you have to be here, but that's basically what he's saying. So we can do one thing. Okay, I'll read the summary of the para. Okay, then if necessary, we can go into the details of each sentence. Okay. So now, what he's saying. Now the question of immortality. That was a question that has come up. Can one realize the immortality of the soul only after physical death? That's what he's starting the paragraph with this question. Can one realize the immortality of the soul only after physical death? Or is it possible to, after you've experienced yourself, you realize that you are immortal? Is it possible when you are connected with the body mind? Physical immortality is not possible under the present world conditions. Or is it that so long as one has body, life and mind, the ties with the earth consciousness are so strong that only after liberation can immortality be experienced? Is it like that? Please ask. Or again, is immortality possible only after severance of all ties with body, life, mind? Only impersonal infinity can give sense of immortality? These are the questions he is raising. Okay? Do we have to necessarily go into the subtle worlds to experience immortality? Is it not possible to experience it even in the physical world? These ideas, not uncommon, they are quite common in India, derive from the soul's practical experience of the need for ascent out of outer surface nature and the need for shuffling off the body, life and mind. Death reigns supreme in the physical world, and life is possible here only on condition of acceptance of death. Okay? Therefore, immortality is not possible here, but only in some far-off heavens. Okay? These are not his statements. He is saying that these are the philosophies that say this thing. And it's interesting because even when you think of Vivekananda, okay, actually Ramakrishna had said about him, as soon as he realizes his own self, he will prefer to go there and he will get rid of his body. And he said something very interesting. After he realized himself, he went to his closest friend in the subtle world. He went to him subtly and told him, I have spat out the body. So if there is the word here, shuffle. Okay? You feel you shuffle off the body. Sort of shake yourself out of it. Okay? The body is no longer there. It's a huge drag on you. So you throw it out. This is what he's saying. Therefore, immortality is not possible here in the physical world or only in some far-off heavens. Then Swami goes on to say, but what about those who would go beyond the first level of mortality, lower existence, and the second level of immortality, spiritual planes, ideal planes, higher hemispheres, and rise into the third level beyond even immortality? Okay? Immortality is experienced in the spiritual planes of consciousness, second level. But he's simply saying, what about those who go to the third level? Will they feel the same? So he's suggesting that at the third level, you don't feel the need of shuffling off your body. You can use it in an impermanent manner. You can use it. It's an instrument. You use it. Such high-minded souls see both lower levels as conditioned influence pursued by finite existence. These two lower levels are subject to the strong need to disappear into the infinite, escape the finiteness, because the bliss of these two levels is incompatible with the soul's delight, which it takes in the becoming the physical world. Many philosophical systems confirm the need to melt into the infinite, but the final deciding authority is what the soul requires. And if it wants bliss in the lower hemisphere, it can certainly have it. That's what Swami is saying. It need not necessarily reject. But if you are in the physical world and you feel the pain and the suffering, you want to get rid of it. So you want to go outside your body, mind, life. When you are in the spiritual planes of consciousness, also you feel that, my God, I am so lucky I have come out. But I want to never go back into the physical world. Then Swami is suggesting that those who go to the third level, when we go to the sentences, I'll point out to where he's saying that. Okay? Then you feel that, oh, the ideas of immortality not being possible in the first level and second level is not really true. You can have immortality even in the physical world if you are at the third level. The soul, the Purusha, is the sole authority to decide what relation it wants to have with Prakriti. Prakriti is the lower, soul is the spirit. So spirit itself decides what its relation will be with the world. That's what he's saying. And all this depends on the past line of development of the soul. Intellectual justifications come later and are not crucial. Neither are intellectual ideas crucial for the choice that the soul makes. This is what he's saying in the paragraph, very clearly. So long as you are in the level 1 and level 2, it is true that you feel that immortality cannot be had in the physical world. You feel that very strongly. But when you go to the third level, you see that that idea is not absolutely correct. So, this is what he's saying. What's the time? 21. We have got 15 minutes. So, I go through each sentence. Okay? Because I'll point out to you where he goes to the third level. Okay? So, here there comes in the complication of the idea that immortality is only possible after death. In other words, upon higher planes of existence, or that liberation must destroy all possibility of mental and bodily living and annihilate their individual existence forever in an impersonal infinity. When you are identified with your body, mind, life, you feel the need to get away from limitation, from suffering. And when you go to the second level, you are free and you feel wonderful. And you see clearly that when you are in this lower consciousness, immortality is impossible. You feel that the second level is the real thing. And there is a rejection of the physical world. He is justifying the general tendency of the ascetic to go away from the physical world. He is saying it is possible to understand. These ideas derive their strength from a certain justification in experience and a sort of necessity or upward attraction felt by the soul when it shakes off the compelling ties of mind and matter. Look at the language, okay? The compelling ties, it compels you to be one with your mind and matter. Okay? Mind and body, matter and body. You are forced to do that. And when you are free, you feel that, oh my God, what a force it was which tied me down in the prison. Okay? So you are very, very free. And that's the experience he's talking about. Okay? These ideas derive their strength from a certain justification in experience. Okay? And a sort of necessity or upward attraction felt by the soul when it shakes off the compelling ties of mind and matter. It is felt that these ties are inseparable from all earthly living or from all mental experience. So long as you are identified with your body, mind, life, it is impossible to experience immortality. That's what they think. But that's not absolutely true, because you have not gone to the third level yet. Death is the king of the material world. It is an absolute law. For life seems to exist here only by submission to death. Life can exist only by submission to death. When something dies, then life also comes up. They are both linked strongly together by constant dying. Submission by constant dying. Immortality has to be conquered here with difficulty and seems to be in its nature a rejection of all death and therefore of all birth into the material world. That's why the ascetic says, impossible. I don't want to go back into the physical world, which is a prison. If I am free, why should I go back into the prison? The field of immortality must be in some immaterial plane. It's possible only at the second level of the spiritual planes, in some heavens, where either the body does not exist, you have a subtle body, but you don't have a physical body, or else is different and only a form of the soul or a secondary circumstance. On the other hand, it is felt by those who would go beyond immortality even. That's what he's meaning by going to the third level. Immortality is at the second level. When you go to the spiritual planes of consciousness, you experience immortality and you reject the physical world. Okay? But what happens if you go to the third? You want to go beyond the immortality, means you want to go to the third level. You don't want to get stuck in the second level. On the other hand, it is felt by those who would go beyond the, he's using different words, but you have to understand exactly what he's saying. Who would go beyond immortality is going beyond the spiritual planes and going to the third plane. Okay? Even that all planes and heavens are circumstances of the finite existence and the infinite self is void of all these things. They are dominated by a necessity to disappear into the impersonal and infinite and an inability to equate in any way the bliss of impersonal being with the soul's delight in the becoming. It is impossible, that's their idea. They are dominated by the necessity to disappear into the impersonal and infinite. So long as you are in your finite body, finite vital and finite mind, it is impossible to experience the delight of existence. Okay? Impossible. Philosophies have been invented. Srimad is not saying this. He is talking about the other ideas. Philosophies have been invented which justify to the intellect this need of immersion and disappearance. Okay? That's why the Mayavada, Buddhism, okay, there are so many others who say impossible to get God in the physical world, go into the higher planes of consciousness only. Philosophy is invented which justified to the intellect, not to the soul, to the intellect, this need of immersion and disappearance. But what is really important and decisive is a call of the beyond, the need of the soul, its delight, not the mind, okay? What does the soul need? But if the soul is in the second level of consciousness, it may still feel that I don't want to go back into the physical world. So the end of rebirth, mukti, moksha, in a sort of impersonal existence or non-existence. So again he is using or. So you have to understand the impersonal existence or non-existence. So what's the difference between the two? Impersonal existence, you exist in the subtle worlds, you are existing impersonal, but without a body. You have a subtle body, but you have no physical body. Or non-existence, even the subtle body disappears. You go into the infinite and disappear. Like the wave becomes one with the sea. The wave doesn't even exist now anymore. That's what he said. For what decides is the determining delight of the Purusha, the relation which it wills to establish with its Prakriti, the experience at which it arrives as the result of the line it has followed in the development of its individual self-experience among all the various possibilities of our nature. That's why I keep telling you that everybody need not follow Sri Aurobindo yoga. Only those who feel that it is possible to experience God in the physical world, for them is the integral yoga, but not for everybody else. Even for the greatest of souls. I think I told you once, and I repeat because it is relevant here. that even when Raman Maharshi was asked, okay, that Sri Aurobindo is saying that we need not reject the physical world. Okay. So Raman Maharshi said, I don't see any necessity in me. I don't see any sankalpa to do that. My purpose in life, again we come back to the idea of Swadharma and Swabhava. My purpose in life was to get liberation, and that's what I've done. There is no urge in me for anything else. So every soul, however great you are, it has a destiny. Some souls will disappear and remain permanently, will disappear from the physical world and remain permanently in the subtle planes of consciousness, helping everybody else. Like for instance, Sri Aurobindo is still and Mother also are there in the subtle planes, and you can contact them actually there. Okay. And even Vivekananda, if you remember, came in a subtle body and told Sri Aurobindo so many things. Okay. Even Sri Krishna exists in the subtle worlds, and he was guiding Sri Aurobindo all the time. Finally, in 1926, he even descended into his body. So they can exist. That's an impersonal existence. And non-existence, you disappear entirely. No more even individuality. That's why he's using the word. So, see, if you have to understand the words exactly what it means. Impersonal existence and non-existence. Okay? I think it's clear now, no? So he discusses the possibility of the liberated soul. Many possibilities are there. One possibility, never take birth again. Another possibility, I want to remain in the subtle planes of consciousness, but I want my individuality, which is infinite. The third level, I can even want to go back into the physical world with a divine consciousness. All these possibilities are there for the human soul, and the soul has to decide what it wants, okay? Not the mind. That's what it is. For what decides is the dominant delight of the Purusha, the relation which it wills to establish with its Prakriti, the experience at which it arrives as a result of the line it has followed in the development of its individual self-experience. So what is the soul? What is its Swadharma and Swabhava? What is it? What has it been assigned to? Okay, it's a very interesting thing because there is a shade of this also in Savitri, if you remember. When Satyavan dies, Savitri also wants to go and disappear from the physical world. Okay, but then 3 times the voice warns her. Okay, actually the voice is telling, come into the infinite, but Savitri says no. Then when she wants to go there, there is a voice that tells her, when you go and face your maker, I'm using different words. What will you tell the divine? That you came back without your work being accomplished in the physical world, that you left your work undone? Will you say that? There is more to be done. Why do you want to go into the higher planes of consciousness? Finish what you have to do in the physical world. Will you be, you will have to answer to the Lord that a work was given to you and you have not finished it. Okay. So that's there in Savitri. So that's linked with this idea. So our intellectual justifications are only the account of that experience which we give to the reason and the devices by which we help the mind to ascend to the direction in which the soul is moving. Note the word ascent. There are 2 words which are pronounced in the same way, but A-S-S-E-N-T, to agree to, and A-S-C-E-N-T pronounced in the same way, they are rising to the next level of consciousness. Okay? So, this is what we have done 2 paras today, and this is what you say. So, the soul and the liberation. After liberation also, there are many possibilities for the soul. There is not only one. There is not only one determined path for every soul. Each soul has got a different choice. Okay, we stop here today. 8:33. We have got only 2 minutes left. So next time we'll go to the cause of our world existence.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
How does one go into the subtle plane?
Oh, but that's not so difficult. You are doing that every night, but you are not conscious of it. Okay? You do go out of your body in the subtle worlds. When you are dreaming, the consciousness leaves the body, but you have to do it consciously.
No, but you said Mother and Sri Aurobindo live in the subtle world. So
Now,
if
yes,
you go consciously to the subtle world, you can meet
yes,
them.
of
So
course,
how do I consciously go to the subtle world to
by
see the
sadhana.
Divine Mother?
Yeah, by sadhana. You are, yeah, you are imprisoned in the body mind life. Get rid of your imprisonment. Come out of the prison. You will be in the subtle world.
But how?
By
There has
sadhana,
to be a blueprint.
eh?
There has to be a blueprint, no, which you can follow.
Yeah, the blueprint is a sadhana. And sadhanas is not only one, there are so many. It depends on what your soul wants. So it depends, you have to discover what your soul wants. And we don't know it because we are in ignorance. We are in the darkness of our body mind life. That's why. But an intense desire to see the mother or Sri Aurobindo will definitely lead you to it. But the desire has to be intense and continuous. Simply, it would be nice if I can see mother, that sort of thing won't do. It has to be the whole purpose of your life. But even that takes time, not easy. So your question is a very interesting one, Yasmin. By sadhana and development, and that comes slowly, not immediately. Okay?
Merci beaucoup.
Archana Di, thank you for having sent Lakshmi Jyoti the links.